Nobody expected this from Tiger Woods' son in just his second U.S. Open attempt, but what Charlie Woods just did sent shockwaves across the golf world. Not because he won, not because he qualified, but because he stood toe-to-toe with brutal expectations, the legacy of one of the greatest to ever touch a club, and the glaring pressure of the spotlight, and walked away with something far more important than a scorecard, a message. But what does that message really mean for the future of golf? You see, Charlie Woods has never really had a normal junior golf career. From the moment he stepped onto the range beside his father at the PNC Championship, every single shot he hit became a headline. Every swing analyzed, every finish compared. He was never just a young golfer. He was Tiger Woods' son, and that label came with baggage heavier than any tour bag he's ever carried. At just 11, we saw him stripe fairways and roll putts with that signature calmness that only someone who grew up watching a GOAT can emulate. And yet, even then, fans weren't just watching him for fun. They were watching him to see what came next. And now, that moment we've all waited for might finally be here. And what came next was pressure. Charlie entered the junior golf circuit with a target on his back. He wasn't just competing with kids his age, he was battling a myth, a name, a last name that has rewritten the history of this sport. Over the past few years, he's trained under Tiger's mentorship, built a disciplined routine, and grown into his frame both physically and mentally. But let's be honest, no amount of reps on the range can prepare you for what it's like to enter a US Open qualifier as Tiger Woods' kid. The pressure was building. But would it break him or sharpen him? And that brings us to 2025. Charlie Woods, now 16 years old, walking into Wellington National Golf Club for his second crack at the US Open qualifying rounds. This wasn't just about making it to Pinehurst, this was about validation, about silence, about proving that the kid behind the viral highlights and Sunday red polos actually belonged, that the son of a legend wasn't just a story, he was a contender. And in this high-stakes moment, Charlie did something nobody expected. Fans and media alike circled this date with a big red pen. Not because they expected him to win, but because they expected something, anything, a breakout, a collapse, a headline. What they got instead was a little bit of everything, and a whole lot of surprise. But the surprise wasn't in the score, it was in the way he played. Because this wasn't just a qualifier, it was a statement moment. And Charlie Woods made sure that the entire golf world heard it loud and clear, and what he said without saying a word was louder than anyone imagined. So, here we are. The stage was set at Wellington National Golf Club. The Florida heat hanging in the air like the pressure that clung to every inch of Charlie Woods' shoulders. And what happened next wasn't what fans expected, but it did leave them stunned. And nobody saw the next few hours unfolding the way they did. Charlie Woods shot a 3-over par 75, a number that on its own might not raise eyebrows unless you understand the full story behind it. Because in the ruthless world of US Open qualifying, where even seasoned professionals get eaten alive by one bad hole, a 75 from a 16-year-old amateur? That's not failure, that's noise, that's disruption. That's the start of something. And golf fans are starting to realize this wasn't just another scorecard. He missed the cut line by 7 shots, didn't advance to final qualifying, didn't make headlines for clutch birdie streaks or a miraculous eagle on 18, but this wasn't supposed to be about the final score. Not really. It was about progress, about redemption from last year's brutal qualifying attempt where his nerves, inexperience, and sheer magnitude of the moment clearly got the better of him. And this time, everyone could see the difference from the first swing. And this time, he stood taller, he held the club firmer. He didn't crumble under the pressure, he battled it. And he walked off that course with something far more important than a tee time at Pinehurst. He walked off with proof. Proof that his name isn't his only weapon anymore. Let's put it into context. The average qualifying cut hovered around even par, and while Charlie was 3 over, he was ahead of dozens of players in the field, many of them older, more experienced, and with actual PGA or Korn Ferry Tour time under their belt. This wasn't a kid playing in his age group, this was a teenager stepping into the lion's den and holding his own, and in doing so he forced everyone to take him seriously. His round had its highs and lows. The front 9 was tight, pars strung together like a pro grinding through a moving day. A bogey on the 7th threatened to rattle him, but he bounced back with clutch recoveries, especially around the greens. On the back 9, a 2-putt bogey on a par 5 and a missed short-range par putt were the tipping points. But the mental composure never cracked. He looked like he belonged, and that quiet confidence might just be his biggest strength yet. And that's the twist. He didn't make it. But this wasn't a failure. It was a warning shot. Because moments like this tell you far more than a trophy ever could. This wasn't Charlie collapsing. This was Charlie arriving. One round doesn't make a career. But one round like this, it gets everyone watching a whole lot closer. And now that he's arrived, nobody's looking away. Let's be honest, when Charlie Woods stepped onto the course at Wellington National, fans expected one of two things: brilliance or disaster. Either he'd drop a near-miraculous round that would send social media into meltdown, or he'd falter under the weight of expectations, unraveling in front of a field packed with experienced, hardened hopefuls. But what we got instead, it was neither. And somehow, that was more shocking than both, because sometimes the biggest shock is calm in the chaos. Because Charlie Woods didn't make the cut. He didn't hole out from the bunker on 18. He didn't shoot under par and silence every doubter in one swings. But what did stun the golf world was just how calm, composed, and, dare we say it, professional he looked. At 16 years old, walking in Tiger Woods' shadow with cameras tracking his every move, Charlie handled the pressure like a seasoned vet. And that maturity, it hit harder than any winning score. And that's what no one really saw coming, because when expectations are sky high, grace under pressure becomes the real headline. From the moment the first tee shot left his club, there was a different energy about him. Not flashy, not nervous, just poised, controlled, focused. He looked like he belonged. And in a sport where presence often means more than performance, that was what left fans and analysts alike genuinely stunned. He didn't just show up, he announced himself without saying a word. The Tiger effect was in full force. Let's not sugarcoat it, Charlie isn't being judged like any other amateur teenager. He's Tiger's son. Every swing is dissected, every round magnified, and because of that, every slight misstep is headline material. But here's the paradox that really got people talking. He didn't qualify, yet this was his most impressive moment yet. Because real greatness isn't just in the result, it's in how you carry the weight. Social media buzzed in the aftermath. Golf Monthly called it a solid performance under elite scrutiny. The Spun emphasized the composure that belied his age. Golf Magic framed it perfectly. The score might not reflect it, but Charlie made a statement. Even fans on X were quick to shift the narrative from "can he qualify" to "this kid's the real deal." And just like that, the conversation around Charlie Woods changed forever. You could feel it, a collective pause from the golfing community. The reaction wasn't disappointment, it was respect. It was acknowledgement that this wasn't a viral clip or a father-son novelty anymore. This was a young athlete carving his own path, quietly, efficiently, on his own terms. And in a world built on hype, authenticity is what really stuns. And that's why everyone's eyes are locked in now. Not because he won, but because he proved something far more valuable. That maybe, just maybe, this kid's ready to take on the impossible. And that's a future nobody wants to miss. Now that the dust has settled and the scorecards are in, one question hangs over the golf world like a thick morning fog. Is Charlie Woods the real deal? Because while the headlines focused on the 3-over par finish and the missed qualification mark, something much bigger is starting to take shape. And fans, analysts, and even skeptics are all starting to realize it. And what they're starting to realize might change the narrative entirely. Let's talk trajectory. On paper, this result doesn't scream breakout. He didn't qualify. He finished 7 shots back. But in terms of development, it might be the single most important step in Charlie Woods' journey yet. Why? Because it showed growth. It showed awareness. It showed maturity beyond his years. All the markers of a rising star who's learning how to build something that lasts. And sometimes steady growth is more powerful than overnight success. Charlie's still just 16. Think about that for a second. Most kids his age are still figuring out high school. Not walking into US Open qualifiers with thousands of fans waiting to dissect their performance. And yet, here he is, handling interviews, executing a game plan, and showing discipline in course management, and all of it with a name that could crush even the most confident junior golfer. That's not normal. That's rare. And in this game, rare is what gets remembered. And here's where it gets really interesting. The improvement is undeniable. Compared to his previous attempt where nerves clearly got the better of him, this was a different player. He looked sharper, more composed. He didn't just swing hard and hope, he thought through every shot. According to Golf Magic, his course awareness and poise under pressure are beginning to mirror the Woods legacy. The Spun called him strategically sound and emotionally mature, which is a polite way of saying this kid gets it. And once you get it, you're already ahead of the game. But let's zoom out even more, because when you step back, the bigger picture becomes crystal clear. How does Charlie stack up to other prodigies at this age? Well, history is clear, so even the greats rarely cracked major qualifiers as teenagers. Rory McIlroy didn't make his first Open appearance until 18. Jordan Spieth missed multiple US Open attempts before breaking through. Even Tiger himself wasn't qualifying at 16. Charlie's already closer than most, and the spotlight he's under, multiply that pressure by 10, and still he shows up swinging. That says everything. So does this result hurt him? Not even close. If anything, it solidifies the belief that this kid isn't hype. He's foundation. He's slow burn development in a world that wants instant results. He's building, learning, adapting, and doing it all under a microscope. And the best part? He's just getting started. The question isn't whether Charlie Woods is the real deal. The real question is, how soon before the rest of the golf world realizes it? Because when they do, it might already be too late to catch up. Now that the final putt has dropped and the qualifying dust has settled, one thing is crystal clear. This wasn't the end of the road for Charlie Woods. Not even close. In fact, if you look past the scorecard and see what actually unfolded at Wellington National, you realize something bigger. This was the beginning. A quiet, disciplined, fiercely focused beginning. And beginnings like this, they often lead to something massive. Let's set the record straight. This isn't a setback, it's a stepping stone. And if Charlie's recent performance taught us anything, it's that the story we're watching isn't about one tournament. It's about the trajectory. More qualifiers are on the horizon, more chances, more tests, more growth. And after this round, golf fans everywhere are suddenly very interested in where this journey is going. Because when a star starts rising, everyone wants front row seats. Because this wasn't some novelty appearance. This was a 16-year-old amateur showing that he belongs in the conversation, that he can handle the expectations, the cameras, the Tiger comparisons, all of it. And now, with one major US Open attempt under his belt, and another one showing real improvement, Charlie is in the perfect position to learn from this, regroup, and come back stronger. And the stronger he gets, the harder it becomes to look away. And here's where the speculation begins, because the road ahead is anything but quiet. And if we've learned anything, it's that Charlie travels well on noisy roads. Could we see Charlie Woods take another shot at US Open qualifying next year? Absolutely. Based on the progress he made between year 1 and year 2, it's almost a certainty he'll be back. And don't be surprised if he's a serious threat to advance. The gap is closing fast. And when the gap closes, momentum takes over. But what about pro tournaments? Could Charlie get invites to PGA events before turning 18? Maybe not next month, but let's not pretend it's out of the question. He's got the name, the swing, the poise, and most importantly, the mentality. If tournament directors are looking for ratings, they know what a Charlie Woods tee time will do to their broadcast numbers. And golf with buzz. That's the kind of energy this sport lives on, and here's the punchline we all need to sit with. If this is what Charlie's doing at 16, what's he going to look like at 20? The scary part? We won't have to wait long to find out. It's a question that keeps fans buzzing, analysts guessing, and rivals watching. Because whether or not he becomes a major winner, one thing is clear. Charlie Woods is carving his own path, and he's just getting started. And the rest of the sport is officially on notice. So now we turn it over to you. Do you think Charlie has what it takes to follow in his father's footsteps? Or is he destined to blaze a brand new trail all his own? Let us know in the comments below. And stick around because the next chapter is coming fast.